Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Um, I wanted to share from our work at Benito Juarez Community Academy, where we have been working for the last 2 years with Stacy, that is here in the audience. So great that you can join us, and that the IB teacher, digital arts teacher there. I came to Juarez because I have been working 5 years earlier through my engagement with Museum of Contemporary Photography with Sen, that Krista just talked about, and Juarez in a very digital manner. At the time when at Juarez, they actually did have a darkroom. And so when I came back 5 years later through CPS Lives, talking with Stacy, we realized that it's the missing darkroom, the analog part of the photographic processes that that it's missing, and that we could use as a as a place to start the creative dialogue. In all of our projects, it was really important always to bring the students to the museums and photography departments in the city to give them inspiration and to give them a sense of where they are working. With with the first project, we thought about implementing analog photography through through digital and creating this bridge that would eventually sort of allow for the students to take pictures of their place under the sun in a way, and then through work in digital darkroom and cyanotypes, we tried to introduce the notion of analog photography, and having the students to understand the processes behind the media. And through this process, the students looking on their place in a community, in a neighborhood, in a family, then printing these as a sun print outside, creating this collective collage that we then decided to think about it as a quilt. And that's when another sort of analog know-how came in, when Stacy was able to teach the students to saw these photographs together to create this this first quilt that was then shown at the local public library on Blue Island and 18th Street. The next year, together with Kyoto, we started also with visit to the art institute, to the photography department, and looking at the photographers that sort of implemented the analog processes and photography within their practice. People like Moholy-Nagy, Nathan Lerner, Barbara Caston. But we developed on this idea that Nathan Lerner developed the idea of the light box, thinking about this analog mode of creating abstract space with controlled light. And working with the students on creating these abstract spaces, and then following on the learned model from the past year, going to the digital darkroom, creating, changing them into black and white and into negatives, and printing them as transparencies, and then those later printing as cyanotypes. And here already implementing the materials that were part of the light boxes as a part of the developing process. And so we initially didn't want this project to end up as a quilt. We were thinking about the different modes of time intervention and thinking about the possibilities of animation, of abstract animation coming out of these works, as we sort of developed a year earlier for our programming for Artists in Horto in the Lori Public Garden. But due to the time constraints, we ended up with another very abstract quilt, and then started to plan the ideas related to animation and to time for this year. And that's when the COVID stroke, and we all found ourselves in totally digital environment. So I will let Kyoto to take over here and to talk about how we tried to think about the analog digital situation under these conditions.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so right, so by the time we were planning to work with the students again, it was shelter-in-place measures, schools were canceled, and as Jan mentioned, we were all stuck in our home and communicating via these digital platforms. So we're trying to figure out a way to implement the moving image component of the project this year as an extension from the years past, but also try to figure out how to discuss the analog approach, which is so very important for Jan and I to kind of bring in for the students. So we decided that we would want the students to make short GIFs or very short movies. So to kind of contextualize that, the short image project that they would be shooting on their cell phone. We kind of started looking at parietal art at the beginning of humanity. So this is parietal art, is colloquially known as cave paintings. So these are the paintings. The slide that you just saw are images from the Chauvet cave in southern France from about 33,000 years ago. And you can also see, this is a facsimile of a prehistoric Stone Age thaumatrope. It was a bone disc that was found roughly 7,000 to 15,000 years ago, is where it's dated. And you can see that actually this thaumatrope is very much similar to these toys that were invented in the 19th century. So the 19th century optical toys, like this, like the phenakistoscope, zoetrope, and praxinoscope, and the thaumatrope. And so we were kind of introducing to the students these ideas that arguably, maybe we see them as this millennial approach to these very cyclical, repetitive, short moving images that exist as GIFs. But really to kind of contextualize it and say, hey, that this has been happening as an entertainment, as a form of entertainment since the 19th century. But even before that, we can kind of go back to the caves and the early cave paintings. You can see the animation, kind of the separations of frames and the multiplicity of the animals that ended up, and archaeologists had animated them to create GIFs such as these. And so we asked the students to kind of think about what it really means to animate something, to make something come alive in their home space under the conditions of shelter in place. What that means for them, what that means for us, for the community, and use kind of their photographic skills and experiences that they had learned and are building up in Stacey's class. So this is a collection of all of the materials that the students were making, and of course we asked them to make it in a very analog process, which is a stop animation process, so shoot frame by frame to create these very short narratives. And then maybe Stacey can jump in here and talk about either the students' work that you're seeing now or the experiences.
Yeah, hi everyone. What should I talk about? Sorry. just
yeah.
You know, maybe if you can talk a little bit about the situation that we suddenly found ourselves in, when, you know, we usually had this full access to your class, right? We were checked by the police and we could be with your kids. And suddenly, in this digital environment, when everything is on Zoom, like your class, it actually keeps us out, and we couldn't really participate and work with the kids, right? And so we suddenly had to implement this new process where we would create this presentation and everything that we would do in the class, and then you would have to deliver it actually the second hand to the kids and have them respond.
Right. Yeah, when we were looking at through the slideshow and those pictures of the class visits that you and Kyoto did in the past made me really sad because they were, you two are so engaging, and I was smiling so much at those pictures and just thinking about how my students from this year aren't getting that same experience, but they did get to see you a little bit in a video, totally not the same in person. But yeah, so this is them, this is their life, this is sort of what they are sheltering with. And, you know, they were just looking at what was around them and bringing it to life. We had a few technical difficulties. There's actually quite a few of these where the students couldn't make the animations themselves. So they sent me like 30 pictures to put together myself. But you know, it worked out. There was a few of them. Jose is the first one that you saw. He's one of my metalhead kids, but he was able to make the GIF on his own. There was another one. This one, I think she was able to do on her own. But there's a lot of, not just in this project, but there's been a lot of sort of technical hurdles or technological hurdles to overcome. But I'm really proud of them, and I'm really excited to see what they did, and just like their perseverance. Right, this isn't easy. I mean, I'm sure it was really fun for a lot of them, but I know that just dealing with the technology and trying to do this remote learning has been really difficult for a lot of them. So to be able to do this, I think it made me really proud to see.
And so there is another few animations. The last one has a sound that she edited on her own, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think that it was interesting to see obviously the choices and also the way that, I mean, and that's, I mean, we are now talking about some type of a crit, right? Even though we don't have the artists actually here, but we can just, you know, imagine, you know, we all went through, or we are going through sheltering in place. So we are sharing this unique experience that we all do, right? Even though we are sheltering in a very different places and in very different ways, there is this sense that we are in this one space with these things locked together, and reimagining them for them maybe also makes it easier for us to understand where does it come from. And you know, there were fairly a lot of them obviously questioning death, right? There are a lot of them that are sort of awfully violent. I will stop talking because this one has a sound, so let's just listen.